Greetings, Ian from RTO here. Welcome to another Battle of the Debuts show where we look at two bands, same genre, who released their debut albums roughly within a year or two of themselves. Went on to do great things or they didn't. And today we are going to do a little bit of neo-progressive rock from 1983. Two bands that released their debut albums within months of each other, and we're talking of course of Marillion and IQ. Both very good bands, both bands that I like a lot. They're both still going, which is good news, and this is how it all started for them. So as usual, we're going to take the band that released their album first, and in this case it is Marillion. Now of course we know everything. For those Marillion fans know they were formed in Aylesbury, and not had many people in the band when they, to start with, they did, but towards the end of 1979-80 they started to get a solid band. And their first album of course was Script for a Jester's Tear, released on the 14th of March 1983, and do I remember when that came out. Seems like a lifetime away now. Who played on it? Well, it was of course Fish on the vocals, Steve Rothery on the guitars, Pete Travavis on the bass, Mark Kelly on the keyboards, Mick Pointer on the drums. Additional people appeared in this. It's the Marquee Club's Parents Association Children's Choir on Forgotten Sons, and also Peter Cockburn was the Newcastle voice on Forgotten Sons. The album was produced by Nick Tauber. Here we go then. First track, of course, the title track, A Script for a Jester's Tear. What a song this is. It's always, you know, from them first words, so here I am once more. I just love this song. I'm not going to say too much about this because I have in the past, but it's got a great solo from Steve Rothery. Then we have a song called He Knows You Know. Now this is a really early song because its writing credits go down to Fish, Steve Rothery, Pete Travaris, Mark Kelly, Mick Pointer, Diz Minute, who was the bassman, and Brian Jellyman, who was keyboards. So this is a song goes way back in the catalogue. Strong lyrics, pretty hard hitting for the time, nice guitar solo, like that as well. Then we get The Web, another song, one of the very first songs they wrote together, I think. Again, it's actually credited to Diz Minute and Jellyman as well, which is great to hear. It's one of them great tracks. I love how this one builds up. The keyboards and the guitars towards the end is good. Fantastic track to end the side. We flip it over to side 2, where we get Garden Party, another song that's been around a long time because it's Jellyman and Minute are credited on this as well. It's just one of the true classics from Marillion, taking the mickey about the upper classes. His keyboard solo is fantastic. Great video, of course. Then we get Chelsea Monday. Now this is actually my favourite song on this album. I love the bass line from Pete, and I just love everything about it, especially the vocal bit with the "Hello John, did you see us standing here?" Fantastic, great song. The last track on this album is the brilliant Forgotten Sons. I like the start of this when you got the radio and you get that little bit of Market Square Heroes. Then you got the Peter Cockburn Your Mother Sits on the Edge of the World, all that sort of thing. And the bit I really like is the bit at the end when that choir comes in and sings Ring a Ring of Roses. Brilliant. Brilliant song. Okay, what do I think of this? Well, I think you all know this one. It's not just one of my favourite Marillion albums, but it's one of my favourite albums ever. Big impact on me, this album. I still play it a lot today. But that's what I think of it. Let's see what the critics thought of it. So Dave Dickinson, in his review for Kerrang, said, as a debut album, Script is an extremely impressive, full living up to the band's previous promise. John Frank gave the album a retrospective rating of 4.5 stars out of 5 on All Music. He has called it a vital piece for any Marillion head and an essential work for self-respecting or first or second generation prog rock fan. So All Music gave it 4 and a bit stars. Chart wise, well, in Canada it got to 51, Sweden it got to 42, but more importantly it got to number 7 in the UK, but only managed 175 in the US of A. So let's have a look at the nuts and bolts of this one. Some quality. Fish was a genius. He wrote some wonderful, deep meaning lyrics. The songs on here are superb. I can't knock them. There is not a bad track on this album. So I'm going to give it the full marks today. 5 out of 5 for song quality. Production. Now, as much as I love this album, I never was some of the production on it, when you listen to the others, is a pretty poor production wise, but it doesn't take away from these songs that are brilliant, because the thing was, these songs always sounded better live. Now we know that they remastered it, but that's for another show at Christmas. So on the original album, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Reception. Well, considering I was around when this came out, we all loved it. It blew us away, especially here in the UK. We loved it, and the critics loved it as well. So I'm going to give this a reception of 4 out of 5. I'm going to knock a mark 1 point off because it was only really big in the UK. I mean, now it's big all over Europe, but at the time it only really broke the UK. Cover design, one of Mark Wilkinson's finest. That Jester is so magnificent. So for cover design, it has to be 5 out of 5. So for Marillion's Script for a Jester's Tear, we have a grand total of 17 out of 20. A real tough one for IQ to beat, because this is just pure genius. So let's have the next band. I think it's IQ. Now IQ were founded in 1981 by Mike Holmes and Martin Orford. They were in a band together called Lens, which didn't have much major commercial success, so they had decided to build up another band, and they have had a loyal following, me being one of them, over the years, and are still active as of 2020. This is where the 2020. This is the information I've got. They are actually at the moment the original lineup, and they've been going over 40 years now, which is amazing. So their first album, don't know when it came out because there's nothing of the release date, but it was recorded from the 2nd of August 83 to September 83. So it was only a month to record this, and it was released in 1983. I reckon it came out October, November time, but don't quote me on that. If you know exactly when it come out, let me know. I knew I got this at Christmas. So they did have this little demo cassette that come out earlier in the year, which if I didn't count in this, but this is their actual debut, and the album is called Tales, as I said, from the Lush Attic. Who plays on it? Where we've got Peter Nichols on vocals, Mike Home on acoustic and electric and 12-string guitars, Martin Orford on the keyboards, Tim SU or something on bass, Paul Cook on the drums. The production was arranged and produced by IQ themselves and engineered by Mel Simpson. First track on this album is an epic of 19 minutes and 57, The Last Human Gateway. Very adventurous. Your first debut album, and the first track you do is 20 minutes long. So I've got some really great keyboard from here. Martin Orford is a very underrated keyboard. He is pretty good. Pete Nichols is a great singer, but I don't know if he's trying to sound like Peter Gabriel on this or not. I mean, it's a great vocal, but it does sound like Peter Gabriel. I don't know if it was on purpose. It is a little bit disjointed, this track. It doesn't flow like, you know, the long prog tracks. I like it, don't get me wrong, I think it's a great track, but I don't think it has got a flow. It sort of stops and starts. This is something that they got better with as they went on in their career, but I thought this was a little bit adventurous, but I do like the track. Then we get Through the Corridors. This is a very short piece. It's got some nice guitar work on this. It's very Genesis, pastiche sort of sound. It's a really good little track, and I really like that. Then we get my favourite track, and this happens to be one of my favourite tracks by IQ to this day. And it's called Awake and Nervous. It's a 7-minute thing. Martin's keyboards on this are brilliant. It's got that real prog keyboard sound. The guitar work here from Mike Holmes is fantastic. Solid track. I love it to death. Then we get this little ditty called My Baby Treats Me Right. It's a lovely bit of piano from Martin Orford. Terrific. And the last track again is a bit of a mini epic, 13 minutes. The Enemy Smacks. The start of this, the keyboard, is so much like the Fountain of Samolsis by Genesis. It's got that feel to it. It's got that Tony Banks edge to it. Wonderful track. I think this flows a lot better than the opening track, The Last Human Gateway. Great way to end the album. I really like this album. I think if you love your prog and your neo-prog, you're gonna love this. My only criticism of this, and it's not a bad one, they really didn't stamp their sort of mark like they did on their later stuff. You've got Peter Nichols sounding a little bit like Peter Gabriel. You've got Mick Holmes, some of his guitar work is very Steve Hackett. But I think it's a strong album. Very ambitious to start your album off with a 19-minute epic. Their longer tracks, as time went on, they really honed in on it, and they sort of had their individual sound to it. It's not a bad album. I love it. I really do like this album. I play this a lot because it's just a fantastic album. But that's enough of me. What do the critics? Well, in a retrospective review, Mike DeGange of AllMusic commented that while the album is highly derivative of progressive rock era Genesis, there's an air on this album that gathers attention, especially the synth-ridden passages. He praised the songs for long-running enough for the listener to reflect on the playing and the numerous unexpected changes in tempo. That's what I mean by that first track. It's very disjointed. But Paul Stump, in the history of progression rock, commented that the band are tight enough and redeemed by a sense of mission, self-belief and even fun, making a particular note that the satire, a commodity that is rare as hen's teeth in progressive rock, in My Baby Treats Me Right. Unfortunately, it didn't chart. But us prog people knew about it. But AllMusic did give it 3 stars. So I'll have a look at the nuts and bolts of this one. Song quality. The songs on here are really good. I've got no problem with the songs. I love the songs. I love the even the disjointed bits. The bits that come in it are really good. So I'm going to give song quality 4 out of 5. Production, very raw. The band did it themselves. They have remastered this now and it sounds a lot better, I must admit. But at the time, the production, very basic, but it did the job. But obviously as they went on time, their production got much better. So I'm going to give that a 3 out of 5. Reception. I thought that it was not fair that they didn't get the acclaim that they deserve for this album, because it was very good. It's just a shame that they didn't hit the heights as much as Marillion did. So I'm going to have to give it a 3 out of 5. Cover design. I would say this is just typical sort of prog cover. Bit wild and interesting. Nice colour of blues. See what the picture is. So I'm going to give this cover design a 4 out of 5. So for IQ from Tales from the Lush Attic gives us a grand total of 14 out of 20. Okay, when it comes to the nuts and bolts, Marillion have won this. The thing is, I love these albums as much as, you know, I think they're level paring for different reasons. But hearts of hearts and deep down, I'm going to give this one to Marillion, because they come out of the stalls running. It took IQ a little bit longer to get going. I mean, they're more of a cult following band. I love them both, and we will be doing an IQ album ranking sometime in 2023. But today I'm going to give this one to Script for a Jester's Tear. Both very groundbreaking albums, in my opinion. Both of them. They really started this neon progressive rock scene in my eyes. So, you know what to do. If you think IQ are better than Marillion, vote for it. The voting will be on the community. It'll be, I shall put it up on Twitter as well, and you'll be able to vote for it tonight on the live stream, or just put your vote in the comments below. Okay, that's all for this one. Just a heads up, during December we're still doing a battle of debuts, but it's going to have a twist, which I'll tell you more about tonight. I'll be back later with a album artwork. We are really closing down on now. This is the last month before we start the new shows. And we're going to look at a German power metal band called Blind Guardian, who have got some absolute belter album covers. So join me for that. Bye for now.